Hey, all you Arizona lovers. This is the Finding Arizona podcast. I'm your host, Jose.
And I'm your producer, Brittany.
And here at Finding Arizona podcast, we collect the local stories of all entrepreneurs and from around the valley. So join us at findingarizonapodcast.com, where you can hear every episode and see it as well at
YouTube. Like, subscribe, and comment below who you want to see next on our show. And when you're ready to start your podcast, you found the right spot. Found House, your next podcast production company.
Now, let's get back to the show. Score big with SeatGeek. Whether it's concerts, sports, or live events, SeatGeek has you covered. Use code FindingArizona to get a fantastic $20 discount on your SeatGeek tickets. Catch your favorite live events hassle-free with extra savings. Visit SeatGeek.com and make every experience unforgettable. Welcome back, everybody, to the Finding Arizona podcast. I'm your host, Jose. As always, we bring in very special guests every week. And ladies and gentlemen, we have not only our special guest, Greg, but we have our special guest, Teddy, over here. And Teddy's here for a very specific reason. We'll get into it with Greg. But I would love to, Greg, will you introduce yourself, your business, and then slowly introduce Teddy here and what we're doing with Teddy today?
Sure. So my name is Greg Forzani. I'm an international business coach and speaker, which is great, but we'll get more in a minute just to kind of what I'm more passionate about.
Yeah.
I guess my background is my family, why I got into what I got into.
Yeah.
My family started a one-store sporting goods, like they came from pro sports.
Yeah.
So I got my dad and two uncles played pro sports in the CFL in Canada. So That'd be like Canada's version of the NFL.
Yeah.
Won a Grey Cup championship.
Right, cool.
And kind of decided, what are we going to do after that? Let's get into sports because we love it, right?
Yeah.
So they started a sporting goods store, kind of like a Foot Locker in the U.S. that makes it easy for Americans to understand. Similar concept, but called Forzani's Locker Room.
Nice.
And then over a few years, decided a bigger general sporting goods concept was a better move.
Mm-hmm.
So like a Dick's Sporting Goods.
Yeah.
But in Canada, it was called Sport Check. Okay. Different company, not associated, but just that's my analogy for similarity.
For sure.
Then started that chain, and that went gangbusters, and ended up being about it's huge. Ended up being about 450 stores.
Yeah.
By the time they sold, so I started in that. Like if you look, you look at a lot of people's resumes, and they have a bunch of different jobs.
Yeah.
Mine literally kind of has two: family business, and then what I'm doing today.
Yeah.
So I started when I was in grade 6, when they realized I could tell the difference between a clear and a black hanger.
Nice.
Meaning go sort hangers in the back room.
Yeah.
So I started by sorting hangers in the back and worked my way up through lots of positions in the company, understanding kind of how things work at the store and I started in the warehouse, actually.
Nice.
How things start in the warehouse, how they do in the store. So just lots of different levels in the company, learning sort of the successes and failures of a business. And hey, Teddy.
It's okay.
Of a business, and what you need to do to succeed. When you bump into failures, what you got to do to bounce back, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I grew up in that, and then the company sold in, I think, 2010. Mm-hmm. I might have my year slightly wrong there. And then decided, hey, what am I going to do? And we can get in a little bit later as to why I got into business coaching, but then I jumped into business coaching from there. Yeah.
That sounds, again, those are all pivotal things, and I'm glad that you started off with explaining what your family kind of started off with, and it really does show the reason why we ask that question is to do just that, show the roots of where your kind of foundation comes from, where everything is from your attitude about business to the culture that you want to enforce and bring up and instill in the places and people that you work with. So that all sounds great. I think that's wonderful. And being that you are a Canada boy, this I would love to also hear the story of how you ended up here in Arizona, because that kind of really reflects your journey of this northern kind of I always say the Canadians are always nice, and just kind of that mentality and how you move into not only the U.S. but also just the different states that you've probably touched or even kind of traveled to, and how that came into your journey.
Yeah, I love it. And just to go back to one thing you said a minute ago, we're definitely on the same page with it's important to understand background. And I think that's because I'm a big believer. I think people become a product of their environment. And we can talk about that later a bit, but you can start to make your own environment, right?
Yeah.
So you can when you start to realize you're a product of your environment, you actually realize, hey, I should put myself in situations where I learn whatever I have to learn to get to wherever I want to get to.
Absolutely.
I think that's a huge deal. Canada to the U.S., how the move happened, 2016, an opportunity came up to move here full time.
Yeah.
We've lived here. My wife and I have lived here since 2016 full time.
Okay, nice.
In Arizona.
Yeah.
I've always traveled the U.S. prior to moving here. Been to many, many, many different states. I started in Calgary. You get cold weather.
Yeah.
Moved to Vancouver because it was Vancouver, Canada, not Oregon, because it was not as cold in the winter. But then Vancouver brought a lot of rain, which makes the place beautiful, but it's wet a lot.
Yes.
Like you could be in Vancouver and get clouds for like 90 straight days.
The Pacific Northwest is got to be a strong will of heart, so to speak, where it's like when you have the doom and gloom of the clouds every day, it's it can really do a damage on your psyche. But yes, I think that's like one of the coolest thing that you can say to your travels is like you've experienced all of these places and I
actually lived in Europe for 3 years.
Oh wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, my dad when he retired from football, actually initially became a teacher.
Okay.
And he applied to teach on the Canadian Air Force Base in Germany.
Oh, nice.
So I actually, for any parents listening to this, just my 2 cents, I can honestly say that if we agree on you're a product of your environment, which sounds like you probably do, the 3 years that impacted my life the most were 7, 8, 9, 10. I know it's 4 years, but 7 through 10.
Yeah.
Growing up in Europe, where back then, because it's like the 70s, there's no smartphones, there's no internet, and there's no English TV in Germany at that time. So we had to go outside and play and do things and travel and experience stuff. And that changed my whole life. That set me up for parents out there in today's world, I mean, don't just make a tablet or a smartphone your kid's crutch. Like, it's crazy.
Well, I can just let you into our little world. She comes from, her father is a Navy guy. So she herself grew up in San Diego, and just the product of her environment is the fact that her father was an outdoorsman, like kind of guy that wanted his daughter to go outside and do a lot of, playing, being hands-on.
Yeah.
Me in particular, you brought up pivotal points in your life, and I actually spent most of my childhood on the East Coast near New York, Philadelphia.
Okay.
And then my mother is half Hopi. So that's a tribe here in Arizona near the Four Corners.
Oh, okay.
And so she decided.
Actually, I heard that on one of your podcasts.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so she decided to move back to the reservation. And that, like you said, was it's a very pivotal point in my childhood growing up and learning about culture, learning about traditions, learning about all of these things in a very tight window of not only adolescence, but growing up into manhood. It's really one of those moments in my life that I'm very happy to say that it turned me into who I am today.
Yeah.
But again, it's
awesome.
It's one of those pivotal points in your life that you always, stand back and you're like, this really made a difference.
Yeah.
So, and then product of my environment, so to speak, too, as well.
That's cool.
Yeah.
We haven't been up, we've traveled up through that area, but never quite made it to the Four Corners. We went up through, like, the traditional horseshoe bend and up to Page.
Okay, yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And then up to Moab, but we'd heard a lot about the Four Corners and never made it quite over there. We
it's a beautiful place. I encourage all to go up there.
Yeah.
it's a very diverse and beautiful place in this fact that's like there's more than one tribe there.
Right.
Goes to show you that like there was something unique happening in that space and area. So
I think it coexists.
yeah,
Cool.
very much so. But again, I asked this to more like we're going through the ideas of you're a product of your environment. Another thing that I would love to understand is as you've decided to move away from your family business and get into your actual what you're doing today as coaching, what was that conversation like with your significant other? As someone who works with my significant other, it's definitely a moment for our relationship to have communication about taking on something big like this or a change like this.
For sure.
I can imagine, having that understanding of like, I want to try something. Will you support me?
Right.
Yeah.
I appreciate that very, very much. With our marriage, we met after I made that decision.
Yeah.
But I can absolutely appreciate that thought process and having to go through that. I mean, you got to have a great relationship to be able to do that. For me, it was a little different journey on that. Company was sold. It was a public company.
Yeah.
So it went from being a public company to selling to an actual private conglomerate.
Okay.
So they bought all the shares, company sold. And then it was like, okay, what am I going to do? Yeah. And I actually, because I'd worked so hard, done a lot of stuff, and actually maybe a little later I'll share the story that happened at that moment. But we'll say, long story short, I took off to Europe, actually. I went to Italy.
Mm-hmm.
You ever been to Italy?
No, I've never been. Should we both want to go?
You got to go.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say. You got to go.
What part did you go, or did you travel all around?
Went and a friend of ours had a place. If you look at Italy, it's a boot.
Yeah.
Right on the instep of the boot.
Okay.
There's a little area, I won't get into the town name. Well, it's 2 hours south of the Amalfi Coast.
Okay.
So Amalfi Coast is...
Yeah. It's like our son's favorite movie. It's called Luca. It's around that area. It's based around that, like...
It's
ridiculous.
So stayed there for like 3 months and just kind of traveled around. But it gave me a chance to hit the reset button, decide what I wanted to do. And I guess to answer your question, I'm a huge believer, and I guess back to product your environment,
Mm-hmm.
coming from a family, grew up in pro sports and earned a Grey Cup championship, then got into business and really earned going from one store to 450 stores, through all the ups and downs. So I grew up learning, you got to earn what you want to do in life. You got to earn it.
Yeah.
Like whatever you want, it's your choice, but you got to earn it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why that's kind of what's cool about the world, right? Everybody gets to choose what they want that to be.
Yeah.
I mean, I have really good friends who, live a super simple life, live in a RV and that's their choice. It's great.
Yeah.
And then I have other friends who, go on to do whatever, earn lots of money if that's important, or work very little and travel a lot, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
So I'm a huge believer in that. And I got this weird mix of I also love the underdog. I don't know why I love the underdog so much. Like, I guess I've always grown up not liking bullies and just appreciating the underdog. Like, even in pro sports, I'm always cheering for the underdog.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of why I got this unique blend of I'm really over the top passionate about privately owned businesses, because, and I walk around where you guys are here, and there's lots of little kind of cool things, but there's some corporately owned chains. That's great. But the privately owned business, they we'll get into this later, I guess, but they want to live a certain life. They want to solve a purpose out there.
Yeah.
They want to grow. So I believe you got to earn the life you want to live. I love entrepreneurship. I love that whole thing. I love the underdog, and I think the entrepreneur is the underdog in today's world. I mean, I lived it where we were the underdog at one store, and at some point in time, we became the predator at 450 stores, right? But I got to experience the whole journey.
Yeah,
and I really got and I got an appreciation for the underdog part.
Yeah.
So that's kind of putting all that together. Traveling around Europe for a few months made me real. And actually, I would say Europe had a huge impact on this, because in Europe, there's very few large corporation
Yeah.
chains. There's a lot of independents.
mom and pops. Yeah.
Like family businesses.
But it's generational mom and pops.
Totally.
So it's like it's a continuous passion, which I also find very unique in that some of those European countries where the apprenticeship aspect, where it's like you really want to continue the legacy portion of it, you take on someone who you want to train all the way through multiple years to take on the mantle of having them as a part of your team and as a part of your. And I always found that very interesting because you don't see that too much around here in the U.S. where it's more. It does go back to like what we chose as democracy and commerce and how we go about it. A lot of that has gone by the wayside, but I always found it intriguing that there is a semblance of independence, diversity through these mom and pop stores and having their own chains or having their own things that they do specialties on.
Yeah.
And what I've learned through not only the insight of doing this podcast, but also just being around during the pandemic is what you're going back to, or what kind of the training that is needed to stay alive in this kind of today's market is the understanding of one's purpose or oneself and like, what am I good at? What do I provide to the community at large about my passion? And how do I solidify myself as an expert in that so that I can continue on forward? But also maybe if I focus enough, I can diversify a little bit. I can go out and try new things, but always centrally understanding that this is my bread and butter. Like this is what I do best at. And so I think that is something that I've learned through your teachings or just what I've been able to do research on is that kind of pulled away from, I was like, oh, how do I connect with what he's bringing to the table? And that is something that I go back on is like, oh, we've had all these guests, and especially during the pandemic, interviewing them of like hardship of how do I stay afloat? How do I continue forward? And a lot of them were looking inward, looking at themselves and trying to say, hey, I do really good at this. And I can give this back to the community in this time of need. So that's something that came about during my process of educating myself on your stuff and just trying to connect myself into it.
I love that. I'm probably too passionate about this subject, but like you say, an entrepreneur, they're usually I'm generalizing here, but what usually happens is they're really good at their product or service. Like because they're so passionate about it, like you're saying, like they're just so passionate about I love this thing, but I see how it can help people. Whatever that might be food. Might be just like the best breakfast ever. Right? Like I love breakfast places. It's like, oh wow, that's the best breakfast ever. It makes me happy and I want to hang out and it's all great. Or like a really good coffee or whatever it is. So they get really good at what they do because they're passionate about it. Then they start to connect, hey, there's a purpose I solve for the market, whether it's great food, whether it's plumbing, whether it's a store that sells a certain product, whatever it is, a service you provide, whatever it is. You get super passionate and you become an expert. And then your friends and family go, hey, you should start a business or buy a business because you're so good at this. And the person's like, oh, wow, that's a great idea. And they do that. But being a profitable, successful business owner is a totally different skill set. So, and then that leads to 75% fail, which we can talk about in a minute. But in the pandemic, that's when everything got exposed. Because like literally if 75% of businesses fail within 15 years, and that's, if you go do your homework, does anybody actually have that statistic? It's really hard to measure. But all the experts say it's somewhere between 75 and 90. So I'm picking the low end of that scale, which is still a crazy number.
It's still a crazy number.
Like, that's insane. So 75% of businesses fail within 15 years. And most of them are probably really good at their product or service. And they're probably super passionate. And they're probably more passionate than the ones that survive at their product service, right? Like more passionate about the customer, which is unbelievable. They're failing. And the main reason they're failing is they don't have the business acumen. Like they just don't have the business knowledge how to do it profitably, right? And that's a huge problem, which I'll come back to. But going back to what you said about the 2020 is if 75% are failing, it means there's a whole bunch hanging by a thread all the time.
Yeah.
And the minute the pandemic hit, that thread got cut across a whole bunch. And we all know, and anybody watching this knows, I'm sure you could think off the top of your head, a whole bunch of people that lost their companies in a very short window of time.
Yep.
And then you also know that, wow, how did it impact those people's families? Like, I mean, we talked, a friend of ours is I can't say a divorce lawyer, a divorce, does all the legal stuff, but is not a lawyer.
Oh, okay. Okay. Attorney. Yeah.
So, well, no, not the, yeah, sure. But she said, like, it was off the charts.
Yeah.
The number of people in that short window that were getting divorces. And then we have a friend of ours who's a police officer, and the home and domestic abuse issues went off the charts, and the, drug addictions went off the charts. And like the list is insane, right? So for me, it's if you're a business owner and it fails, that leads to a bunch of those issues.
Yeah.
So like that for me, I've always been passionate about it, but that for me that's the switch that flipped. Where I'm like, okay, like up until then, I've been working with clients one-to-one and making a huge impact.
Yeah.
But there's a bigger calling. There's a like this that happened in 2020, 2021. There's an issue in the world.
Yeah.
Like, and that exposed it more so.
Yeah.
Still pisses me off to this day that it's, there's a lot of things being talked about and people are trying to help, but that's an area people aren't talking about and they're not trying to help. Like, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
If 75% of businesses are going bankrupt, hello, like there's so many things attached to that as an issue.
Yeah.
So many things.
Yeah. I agree 100% because like what we're talking about is a generalization, but there are specific cases where it can be heartbreaking to see the final result from something like this, and where families are devastated. Like you had brought up, my ultimate goal of anything that we do, especially here in the podcast, is always trying to leave something better than when you came upon it.
Cool.
And so for us,
awesome.
it's just something that I've growing up in my product of my environment. My grandfather was the big reason why I even started this. He believed that every story has a purpose and it's important to give them opportunity to show that purpose. And so through that,
he'd be proud because you've done 400 podcasts.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
I'm hoping
right?
so. And he's definitely been a big aspect of like where my foundation comes from for this. And I continue it to this day of like, I don't absolutely think that I'm the smartest person or anything. That the whole purpose behind this is about the guest and having them share their knowledge, because I may know a little bit, but you know way more about the specificity behind everything. And so it's up to me to grab a couple of those nuggets so that I can share with the audience so that they can feel like, oh, I feel connected to Greg here. I want to work with Greg and I want to try my best to do what Greg does. So to me, I absolutely find it heartbreaking when I hear the statistics behind it, because it is something that I'm trying my best. I can only cheerlead for so many people at a time and do these episodes so many times, so many days out of the week. But again, I feel like I'm doing my part to at least give the opportunities there for the voices. And so as much as the heartbreak is, I gotta soldier on. I have to try my best to really share as many stories as I can to those out there watching, because it is vital to this ecosystem that we're calling the business.
Yeah, for sure. And it's, and good for you, because I don't like saying small business, because I think people wrongly assume what that means.
Yeah.
Personally, I just like saying, we'll say corporate versus privately owned.
Yeah.
Corporate in today's world, for your audience and yourself, for your audiences and yourself's information, corporately owned businesses are basically majority or backed or invested
Yeah.
by the funds.
Yes.
And that all rolls back to about the fund. Basically, the majority of the funds comes down to 5 funds.
Okay.
They own the majority.
Yes.
Like funds invest in funds, invest in funds. 5 funds basically invest the majority.
Okay.
And those 5 funds don't own, they have controlling interest, meaning they're the highest shareholder.
Yes.
In over 74% of the world's business. Let me say that again for anybody watching. They have controlling interest of like 74% of the world's business.
Mm-hmm.
The world.
Yes.
That's freaking insane.
It's like,
It's insane. Now, then we wonder why an entrepreneur that wants to live the life they want to live, earn the life they want to live, provide for their family, but maybe more importantly, quite frankly, probably do a better job of their product or service than the corporations would. Yeah. Like I'm a big believer in that. I think, and we all know this. You go to a coffee shop or a restaurant, you go to a store, you go meet with a massage therapist, right? If you go to a massage therapist who works for a big conglomerate, it's probably not going to be a really good massage. But you, right?
Yes.
You walk out and you go get another one because that one wasn't very good.
Yeah.
But you go to a really good massage therapist and wow, that was impactful. But they're struggling because they're fighting that corporation, right? Because they don't have the business acumen.
Yeah.
Now, if they had the business acumen,
they win. They win, yeah.
Because from the consumer's eyes, I think number one, as a consumer, I want to go to the place that provides the best whatever. Like they solve a purpose for me, whether it's a great product, a great service, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I think there's also a bit of a vein running through the world of people want to support privately owned businesses. They'd like to do that.
Yeah.
They really would.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to do that if you're like one of my pet peeves as a customer. I love coffee shops you and I talked about it before we got on camera, like little restaurants or cafes or delis.
Yeah.
Like we're on the same page with that. Love those places. So today, when we leave here, we're probably going to go find a place like that. I'm going to get there and it'll be closed.
Yeah. It'll lose your customer. You're the customer. You're going to lose faith in that.
Yeah.
Just right off the bat.
And then I would never go to the Denny's, but I'm using it as an example. Yeah. Then I got to go to Denny's.
Yes.
It's like, really?
Yeah, I get it. No, I totally get it. And it's hard. It's hard sometimes because it's like, there's this level like, I want you to be great, but you have to be great for yourself.
Get out of your own way.
Yes.
So, totally. So it's for me, that's a huge passion. Just to put a little more salt on this wound, one last stat. Out of all businesses, only 4.5%, and I reconfirmed the statistics before I came today, only 4.5% sell for a reasonable value.
Okay.
Out of all businesses, 75% fail, and of the 25% that are left, 4.5 of the 100, not 4.5 of the 25, actually sell for a reasonable value. Now, here's the... Sorry, sometimes I get a little graphic when I get passionate, but here's the punch in the face. Of the 4.5 of 100, 2.7 of the 100 actually sell and get paid versus have to vendor finance. So let me do a quick role play.
Yeah.
Just to drive this point home. If you're a homeowner, I don't know if you're a homeowner or not, but let's pretend you are. So whether you're a homeowner, and you go to sell your house in today's world, March 2025, you go to sell your home, and you can't find a buyer that will pay you a fair market for your house, meaning the only way you can sell your house for fair market value is if you vendor finance the buyer.
Okay.
What does that tell you about your house?
Tells us a lot of things. It's like it is either in a bad area, or you are asking for too much. You're not being reasonable.
Yeah.
Like
you don't understand. I did all this yard work, so it's worth all this price, right? So, or you've done something that's just not showing up in the value.
Yeah.
So, bottom line is, you think you're fairly priced, and you might be, but compared to everybody else, you're not, and therefore you've got to vendor finance the buyer.
Yeah.
Like they can't go to a bank or a mortgage and get the money because the lender's saying it's not worth that.
Yeah.
So that's why of the 4.5 that sell, only 2.7 sell for actually cash.
Okay.
So now we're talking about
Even
people.
less.
Yeah, people start a business, want to provide for their family, want to solve a purpose for their customer, and only 2.7% of them get paid at the end.
Mhm.
Are you
It's
kidding me?
Yeah, it's insane.
It's right. It's beyond insane.
Yeah.
So, and it doesn't need to be this way, because at the end of the day, I firmly believe and argue that privately owned business entrepreneurs are usually better at their product or service than the corporations.
Yeah.
So they should succeed. They just got to learn the business acumen. That's it.
And that's what you're starting. Well, that's what a lot of your clients today are getting from you.
Yeah.
And so when you take on coaching like this, and now we've kind of talked about this, your approach was singular, meaning one-on-one with these individuals. After 2020, you said, I need to step up and make a bigger footprint.
Yeah. World needs it.
What for you was that bigger footprint? And then we'll start to go into what we're kind of approaching today in the future, April, of what you're going to be promoting.
Yeah. We spent, so I would start to answer that by saying, I think the entrepreneur, the privately owned business owner, I think they're very passionate and committed to what they want to achieve.
Yeah.
And that's fantastic. I don't want to crap on other business coaching programs, but I do need to tell the truth.
Okay. Go right.
So kind of like, we're passionate about dogs.
Yeah.
Here's a podcast you should look at doing. Many dog food companies, the ingredients going in those foods, not good. So, not good.
Yeah.
So, many coaching companies are a little bit too rah-rah. Let's sit around the campfire and sing Kumbaya. Let's hug. You can talk and I'll listen and you can cry and I'll tell you to get going. And I get it. That's needed in life. I'm not undervaluing that. I'm not. But at the end of the day, if they want to succeed, they're probably already committed to that.
Mm-hmm.
What they're actually looking for is how to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? They're looking for how to do it.
Yeah.
So we've spent a long time now, both through decades of being in a family business that grew successfully, listing what are the things business owners need.
Mm-hmm.
Then since I've been doing this business coaching since 2010.
Mm-hmm.
So since 2010, worked with hundreds of business owners, and then realizing what they need, all different industries, put those tools and processes in place.
Yeah.
So we've built over 250 tools and processes.
Nice.
We've added, and things like, because people are like, well, what is that? What do you mean by that?
Mm-hmm.
So it could be like how to build a budget. It could be how to properly price your product or service so they're profitable, which you can do me a favor and remind me in a couple of minutes to talk you through that real quick, to just give people an idea of what I mean. We come at business from a different perspective.
Okay.
Or like, say how to build a marketing plan, how to build a sales process, how to run a proper staff meeting, a hiring process, performance reviews. I could go on and on. There's 250, right?
Yeah.
And don't ask me to list them all right
I couldn't.
my head.
I wouldn't.
And then for each one, we built a training video.
Mm-hmm.
And then we took all those and broke them into kind of, think of it like a game board, like a journey.
Yeah.
So we map it out so they can travel through those pending on their needs at that moment.
Got it.
So not everybody has to do it the same way.
Yeah.
You can, like if you at school, do you want to learn math before you learn science?
Yeah.
Depending on your current situation.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing. So we built all that out, and we built it out and we use it with our one-to-one clients, which, long story short, like 90% of our one-to-one clients make a profit after a wage, which is the part I want you to remind me to come back and explain what that looks like and means, because I think that's what will drive the point home for people.
Sure.
So we do that in one-to-one. We built that online program. It's a software, and it's dialed.
Yeah.
So then we took it to another level, which answers your question. Sorry, this is a long answer.
No, you're fine.
But
you're fine.
answers your question of now we can do it in a do-it-yourself format with some support around like group Q&A webinars. And so we got a lot of support wrapped around it. Like every single week we do group Q&A webinar. They can get on there. They can ask a question about what they're going through, and we point them back in there where the answer is.
Got it.
We have like private Facebook groups. They can ask questions there. So the support's there to ask a question anytime they need.
For sure.
And unlike most companies, which I'm sure you've experienced this and your viewers have, you got a question on a thing and you go to find how do I ask the question?
Yeah.
And 4 years later, you're still trying to figure it out and ask the question and answer.
Yeah.
It drives me nuts.
It is.
So we give them a true, like, you can do this whenever you need it.
Yeah.
So you're not on your own on an island. And it's laid out and they can follow it. And then realizing that because we're passionate about all sizes of businesses, we've taken the whole program, they can join that.
Yeah.
But then we pieced it out into smaller sections for, niches, whatever they need. Like maybe they're a startup business. So a startup program. Yeah. Less money, less to go through. So it's more affordable for a startup.
Yeah.
Or if they're part of the 75% that are drowning right now, then we got a program actually called Fix Your Business Fast. And it does exactly what the title says. Just need to follow it.
Yeah.
So they do that, super affordable. Boom, they go through it. Then they can migrate up, right?
So it's incredible too, because it's like this level of education where it's like it's pick your own adventure, but it's also like this encyclopedia where you could have the whole course load if you wanted. But the fact that you were like, here, if you just want to, just get your business up and feeling better, here is the distilled, like, these are the books that you need.
And that program?
Yeah.
It's only $199 a month.
Awesome. So let's go back to what you were asking me to bring, the breakdown of.
Just to show people, so we come at this, I'll summarize it this way. Our education system, love it or hate it, is not doing the best job in the world.
Yeah.
They're definitely not doing a good job of teaching business. They're just not.
Or financial literacy. I see. We come back to, my wife and I have been going through this. Because we're kind of like trying to get better at our own finances and having our communication of like, she's way better at it than I am. So I'm the one that's like asking questions or trying to learn more. And so we're both doing it together so that we're both on the same page.
Yeah.
And
super
we're like,
important.
Had this conversation one day. We're like, why didn't we learn this in high school? Like, we should have known this information prior to like even leaving high school. So there are a lot of things that I feel like we wish we would have had better understanding.
For sure. It's huge. I believe that's a subject that should be taught too.
Yeah.
So on the business side, they go to high school, learn nothing about business education or financial education, which I would argue they sort of complement each other. Then they go to university and get a business degree. I hate doing the quote signal, but I'm gonna in this case, because the business degree, sorry, colleges and universities, you don't do a great job of it. I have a lot of clients that have like master's degrees in business, and they're like, wow, this is not what I was taught.
Yeah.
So as an example, we're big on sort of myth-busting current business knowledge and trying to help you understand and explain it in a way that's different, but simple. And I'll give you an example in a sec. But the whole point is helps you make better decisions. Because business is about making decisions.
Yeah.
And some are not going to be good ones. It's okay.
Yeah.
But the key is to do a bunch that are good and very few that are bad.
Yeah.
And the real key is you don't want to make a bad decision that's crippling. That's the key. To limit the crippling, which is no different than life, right?
Yeah.
Like life's the same way, right? Like you put yourself in a situation that could be really bad. That's a dumb move. So, and as kids, we've probably all done that. Right.
Yeah.
So here's an example in business. If you look at, I like using my hand as a prop. If you look at a profit and loss statement, so for your podcast company, you guys are probably having to run financials, right? Okay. So on a profit loss statement. And I use the word profit loss. You can also say income statement.
Yeah.
The newer language is income statement. I was using that language, and I found a lot of people say, what's an income statement? I'd say, well, it's a profit and loss statement. They go, so I've just gone back to profit and loss language.
Yeah.
So if you look at it, it has kind of 5 sections on it from top to bottom.
Yeah.
The top one is revenue, sales, money coming in, right? The second one should be, and here's the first learning lesson for everybody. If you don't have a section called cost of goods, there's your first mistake, and I'll show you why in the second lesson after this. But cost of goods is whatever you purchase and sell.
Mm-hmm.
So the key is to find out what is it you purchase and sell. In a restaurant, that's easy. I purchase food or coffee or whatever and sell it, or drinks, right?
Yeah.
That's super easy. In a service business, like say a lawyer, a massage therapist, a dentist, in some cases you're purchasing materials, not all, but you're purchasing labor and selling it.
Yes.
So I'm buying an hour from this employee or this subcontractor and I'm selling it.
Okay.
So that's a cost of goods.
Yeah.
So you got to find out what is that in your business, and then realize, like in the podcast business, again, as an example, I would say your company purchases time from your presenter, right? You, and what does that look like?
Okay.
Like, in other words, if your company hired somebody else to do your job, that goes in cost of goods.
Got it.
Where I think a lot of business owners muddy the waters and merge, well, I'm the employee, I'm the cost of goods, I'm the owner. It's kind of all one thing. No, that doesn't allow you to make a business scalable, and it definitely doesn't build your business into a valuable asset.
Okay, nice.
Because when someone comes in to buy it, they're like, well, wait a minute. When Jose leaves, when Brittany leaves, this thing's nothing, so we're going to pay you $0.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's a problem.
Yeah.
So you got to build it into something that's sellable, right?
Yeah.
So, and it starts in the financial statement.
Yeah.
So cost of goods, so you got revenue coming in, minus, say, your podcast company would be cost of goods to Jose to be the presenter, right? Yeah. You pay Jose by the hour or whatever it is. Revenue minus cost of goods equals gross profit. I use the word gross margin here. They're the same thing.
Okay.
I'm a retailer in my blood. So it's gross margin, but you can call it gross profit. So revenue minus the cost of goods equals a gross profit.
Okay. Then
you take that gross profit and you pay operating expenses. So in this case,
this room, equipment.
Exactly. You got a website, insurance,
software.
Exactly. A bookkeeping, accounting, marketing, all that stuff goes in expenses. And then, so gross profit minus those expenses equals net profit.
Got it.
Now, this is where this is why this is one of the reasons why 75% of businesses are failing, because they're merging in their mind, especially small business. I'm the cost of goods. I'm also in the operating expenses. I'm the owner for net profit. And, it's kind of all mucky and merged together.
Yeah.
And at the end of every month or at the end of the year, I got some money in the bank account.
Yeah.
Great. So I'm doing well. But wait, what if you paid yourself, like you're not the owner here, and you paid yourself some kind of a manager wage to do the manager job here, whatever that looks like, even if it's part-time, like even if it's only 5 hours a week.
Yeah.
When I'm done all that, then do I still have a profit left? Because me, the owner, I'm just looking for a profit. Because if I'm going to build this into an asset for someone to buy, they're focused on that number.
Yeah.
Because they may or may not do these jobs.
Yeah. Okay.
So the only way to make the company worth something is if that number is of value.
Yeah.
It's simple. So I would challenge your viewers, if they're a business owner, to go home or go to their office and look at their P&L, and whatever they're paying themselves in either cost of goods or expenses, to adjust that amount to what they would have to pay somebody a fair market wage to do. And whatever number they adjust. So let's pretend they're currently paying themselves, I'm going to make a number up. They're currently paying themselves $50,000 between these two.
Yeah.
And really they should be paying between the two $125,000. Again, I'm just making that up.
Yeah.
Then if they increase these $75,000, they got to decrease the profit on their current P&L by $75,000 because they just increased these.
Yeah.
And when they're done that exercise, I am guaranteeing you, the majority of them will find out this number here is zero or a negative number.
Yes.
Problem.
Yeah.
Now your company's worth nothing. And quite frankly, you don't even have, you just have a stressful job.
Yeah.
You're not a business owner.
You're not
right?
a business. Yeah.
So why would you go through all that crap of a business owner and all that crap you got to
more
deal
like
with?
have a stressful hobby, almost essentially.
Right? So, but it's a mind shift, right?
Yeah.
And if they can do that, then they start to make better decisions.
Yeah.
And then those decisions lead to activities they do, and those activities lead to the results, and they start to transform this thing into a true business.
Yeah.
And then that business starts to gain value. And then, it's the journey, right?
Yeah.
It's what you do. It's why you got into it. It's what, and I think another thing a lot of people don't think about is, and I don't mean to crap on Walmart greeters, so I'm going to sound mean by saying this, but it's a bit of a reality punch, is you don't want to do all this, have all that stress for all those years. And then when it comes time to exit, nobody wants to pay anything because there's no profit.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's no adjusted profit.
Yes.
They realize that.
Yeah.
They're buying a job. Why would I want to buy a job? And if I'm going to buy a job, I'm going to give you very little for it.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, then you come out with nothing. And if you didn't, back to your point, manage your finances well, if they don't do that, then they're getting that little vest at Walmart and greeting people in their 70s. And I don't think that's what people ultimately want. I mean, maybe they might, but everybody has their choice. But if you want to go live a comfortable retirement and enjoy life and, reap the benefit of the fruits you're growing, you got to grow the fruit properly.
Yeah. Well, it's like I look at this entirety of this conversation and I'm like, if you just let go of the idea of like you are inventing the wheel, so to speak, no, it's not it. What you're doing has already been done. You just have to figure out how they chose, like what made them so profitable. Yeah. That's why a lot of the times some of these business coaches are just like, we're going to show you how the big guys do it. Right. And it's like that something is like what most people are like, let go. They get caught up in like, it's like, oh, this is mine. This is like, I'm trying to make something. No, business has been done for so many generations. Let's figure out which of these businesses best reflects what you're trying to do. And then let's specialize it so that it is showing the thing that you're passionate about. And then you can that's how you become profitable. That's how you become an actual business, is that you have, like you said, at the end of the day, when someone is like, I'm not going to pay you for the job. I want the actual final amount so that I can take over and then maybe hire someone else to do, and I just get this last bit. Exactly. And so I look at it as like, you're not reinventing the wheel. You're trying to adapt some approach to best reflect what you're trying to be passionate about.
Exactly. And then the other super quick lesson, I won't go as detailed, is most businesses, period, corporations or entrepreneurs, but particularly entrepreneurs, really screw up when they price their product or service, because they're thinking about the cost of goods and they're going, okay, how much, like if I buy it for this, so I buy I buy a bottle of pop for this in my coffee shop, what am I going to sell it for? Or I buy an hour of labor from so-and-so, a lawyer or a dental hygienist or an electrician or whatever, and what do I sell it for? They don't take into consideration that at the end of the year, they've bought and sold a whole bunch of those things. And is the difference, which is this number, the gross profit, is that going to be enough to cover the operating expenses and still have a profit left? Yeah. Which takes us to the next point real quick, which is when you convert all of these things to percentages, that exercise becomes easy. If this is 100%, because it's all the money coming in, that's 100%. Yeah. If your cost of goods, and I'm going to use some super easy numbers here. Sure. So just for the record, the numbers I'm about to share are not the numbers everybody should use. They're just an example, right? Yeah. So if 100% is the money coming in from the customer, and let's pretend you pay 50% to cost of goods, then let me back up. If 100% is the money coming in, and right here, 35% is your operating expenses. Yeah. So 35% of all the revenue you bring in. So you bring in $1 million. if you spend $350,000 on operating expenses and you want to make, say, a healthy company makes 15%, like a really great company makes 15%, a healthy company makes 10%.
Yeah.
So if you want to make great numbers, 100, which by the way, if you make great numbers, you can sell your company for a lot.
Yes.
So if you want to make $150,000, which is 15%, and your operating expenses are $350,000, which is 35%,
Yeah.
then 35% operating expense plus 15% profit is 50%.
Mm-hmm.
So this number here, the gross profit, has to be 50%,
Mm-hmm.
which means you have to pay 50% cost of goods.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a restaurant, you buy a bottle of pop for $2. Well, if that's got to be 50% of the selling price, you got to sell it for $4.
Yeah.
And if you sell all those bottles of pop at the end of the year, you will be left with, when you do the $1 million, 15% profit.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a nice, easy way to explain it. But that totally turns upside down how people are taught, which is, well, when I buy it for $2, I got to go look at my competition and see what they're selling it for. I got to take this coin, my lucky coin, and go like that and go, I'm going to sell it for $3.17. That's what the coin says, right? Like,
yeah.
Or I'm going to ask my staff, what should I sell it for? Like, hello, you got to know what you need to sell it for to make money.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're never going to make a profit. So again, just an example. Right?
Yeah. So, I mean, this has been all great, and I've had a very great time. And the way that you teach is just really digestible, like really something that people can sink their teeth into and really comprehend on any scale.
Yes,
And it's been really great to chat with you. So as we reach towards the end of our conversation, I give it to you to kind of give us some goals for yourself, because that's something that I've always found interesting, in the fact that you're in it a lot of the times. You're like in the weeds with some of these owners. I just want you to step away and give us some goals for yourself, because as someone who is trying to give back to others, I would love to hear from the other side of the coin and just kind of what your mentality of this 2025 year, especially. I also have another side question for you.
Okay.
We're here in Arizona, especially Phoenix in particular.
Yeah.
It is now the 5th largest city in the
growing
U.S.
like
and
this,
growing
right?
like this.
6.5 million people.
And I know you've probably seen.
I think while I've lived here, it's gone from 6th or 7th to 5th, like just while I've lived here in this little window. Yeah, it's crazy.
And it's like, you've seen the investment from, the Taiwanese chip maker to a lot of some of the other investments in just like health and research development.
Right.
What excites you about being here in particular, living here, that just kind of goes with what you do?
I think the opportunity for everybody is fantastic. Like, even if you're in the job market, which, by the way, on a total side note, we are just about finished building what I just told you.
Yeah.
Change the name to employee.
Okay.
An entire employee training program, and it's for one purpose: to help employees become irreplaceable at work.
Yes.
But irreplaceable from the employer's perspective, not from what you think is what you need to do to be irreplaceable. It's a totally different thought process.
Okay.
So to answer your question, I think it's not just business owners, it's employees, right?
Yeah.
So whatever you are, an employee or business owner, there's money, and I'm not trying to make it sound like money is the God we all bow to, but at the end of the day, it makes the world go around.
Mm-hmm.
It just does.
Yeah.
So you got to play within that. There's such an opportunity because there's money being invested in the Valley. There's more people moving to the Valley because there's money being invested in the Valley.
Yeah.
Business money, right?
Business money, yeah.
And I've been all over the place. It's still today in 2025 super affordable to live here. Yeah. Like, you can come from Vancouver, Canada. I know this is going to sound funny. I'm not exaggerating. You can buy for like $1.5 million. You can buy a house that's basically the smallest lot you can find, and the house is made out of cardboard, and it says Samsonite on the outside of that house. It's just a freaking box. Like, and I know it's funny, but it's the truth. Yeah. Like, for $1.5 million, you're talking about a teardown. Yeah. Like, it's crazy. So in Arizona, you can buy a place here and live affordably. Cost of living is really good. There's so much to do here. Like, I mean, it's one thing that intrigued us to reach out to you guys because it's about finding Arizona, right? Like it's about Arizona. So I would just encourage anybody, whether you live in the US, whether you live in Canada, this is an unbelievable, if you have any aspirations, what a great city, valley, because it's a bunch of cities, to move to.
Yeah,
like
wow, 100%,
huge opportunity, and that's why we're here and we stay here.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm super passionate about that. So yeah, I would love if more and more people came here that were entrepreneurial and wanted to, live their dream and achieve their dream.
I think it's happening. I really do.
Totally agree. 100%.
And then for yourself, any goals besides the big event that is happening in April?
I'll talk about the event in a sec. My big goal is simple. To my core, I am over the top passionate about people earning the life, like achieving the life they want to earn. Yeah. Super passionate about that. So the big goal is that 75% number, which is a big eyesore.
Yeah.
I would love if I'll say we, because I have a partner and we have my wife working with us, and there's the three of us right now, and we just brought on a fourth person. So, the bigger we can grow and the more we can actually affect that 75% number, I'm all over that. Our focus is Arizona to start because it's our backyard.
Yeah.
And I see the opportunity like you just talked about, and then just keep growing, right? And it's to ultimately have an impact on the planet on the 75% number, because it's
for sure.
It's an epidemic and it's needed. And I don't think people are focused on it enough or as much as they should be.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I really do appreciate your time here. And before we go, I want to get into the event, because that is absolutely vital for those who are listening and watching right now, that you're taking place in April. Give us the breakdown.
So the event is Saturday, April 5th. Starts at 9:30 in the morning. We're going to have two speakers, myself, and we're flying in another speaker who's a online marketing specialist.
Nice.
So I'm going to basically focus on, the event is about how to turn your business into a profitable asset, like we talked kind of here. So I'm going to get into that. I'm going to give people a tool that can do the exercise with a pen and a piece of paper in the actual training, like the seminar, where they can put in their own numbers. If they don't know the numbers off the top of their head, they can kind of guess, but learn the exercise. Yeah. And then I've left them space. They can go home and finish the exercise with their real numbers. So they'll really start to get it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get into all that. And then part of turning your business into a valuable asset is you got to increase this revenue. Everybody's always focused on that.
Yeah.
So, and today online is a huge deal.
Yeah.
So we're bringing in an online expert who will get into two main subjects. One will be how to do that effectively. Because, I mean, as you guys probably know, there's a lot of people out there spinning their wheels on how to grow their revenue. It's like a big, complicated subject. And then the second thing is to teach people how to actually measure if their marketing's working.
Okay.
Because a lot of people spend money on this online marketing stuff and don't get the return, and maybe just don't even realize it.
Yeah.
So he'll walk through both those things.
Okay.
So it's going to be two speakers, and then at the end, we're actually going to open it up to a Q&A for both speakers.
Great.
So we'll have mics floating around. People can ask specific questions to either speaker.
Perfect.
And I think we wrap up by 1 o'clock.
That sounds great.
Yeah, 1 o'clock.
That sounds like a wonderful
person organizing.
that sounds like wonderful.
Yeah. Well, so, and we'll share the
yes, we have all the information that will be provided to the listeners in the links below. But this is our last little bit, is give us all the website information and all that, and let everyone know where they can find you on social media, things like that. That'll conclude our conversation, and then we'll get out of here.
Awesome. So our online program we talked about today is www.forzanibusinesseducation.com.
Okay.
That leads you to the programs, which earlier we talked about, the different, like the big program or your startup business or fix your business fast. Those are all listed in there.
Okay.
And then the second point is, if they're interested in the event Saturday, April 5th, then it's forzanibusinesseducation.com. /events.
Awesome.
And they can register right there. There's a landing page, tells them about the event. They'll get a ticket, the whole bit.
Well, I appreciate it, Greg.
Thank you.
I really
enjoyed
do.
it a lot.
I think you're a wonderful person, and I have no doubt that there are going to be a slew of people who've listened to this that are reaching out to you already. So
Appreciate it.
we do have an outro for ourselves. You can hear every episode of our podcast at findingarizonapodcast.com. All social media under Finding Arizona Podcast. And last but not least, we say kisses, hugs, and belly rubs to our four-legged friends, and we will see you next time.
Cool. So you want me to just kind of say
give me a little information about Teddy.
So I brought Teddy with me because we're big rescue supporters. And I get it. Some people, they want to work with a breeder. No judgment here. But there's, okay, so Finding Arizona.
Yeah.
Arizona in particular, huge rescue issue. I'll say issue meaning there's a lot of dogs without homes.
Yes.
Like a lot.
Yes.
More than, quite frankly, any state or province in Canada or whatever that I know of. Like, it's insane. There's so many.
Mm-hmm.
We have 3 dogs. All 3 are rescues. Teddy, as an example, was, so believe it or not, because he's super friendly, he was actually a guard dog chained to a house.
Oh, wow.
Like, he was, for the first year and a half of his life, thick chain, attached to a fence, not so great neighborhood, was rescued by the rescue we work with. And we grabbed him right away. And he's, when we first got him, people were a little afraid of him because he had a bit of a serious look, but he's turned into like the actual sweetest boy. He's just amazing.
Yeah.
We have 1 dog that was a street dog. Anyway, we have 3 dogs that are rescues, but they're just, I think rescue dogs get a bad rap. For the most part, they're
gentle.
They're gentle. They want a home.
Yeah.
If you love them, they love you back. They're great. And they need help.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're in the same boat. We love our animals. And that's what my little outro is always about, is that defenseless creatures need just as much love as the rest of us. And I try my best to give as much love as possible to those who need it. And my dog and my animals, we have two cats as well. They all get along, and they're all very much a part of the family. And so I love.
So 2 cats and a dog?
2 cats and a dog. Yep, they all get along. That's great. Surprisingly, we've had them for years, and they all do very well with one another. Yeah. So they're all used to each other. So
that's cool.
Yeah,
I definitely encourage any listeners, just go meet rescue dogs and cats. Just, go meet them, get to know them. And if you want to get to know one, rescues let you volunteer your time, walk them. You can take them for walks, get to know a particular one. And then if it works out, great.
Yeah. I want you to give everyone, and look at the camera while you do it, can you give everyone the name of the rescue that you work with?
We work with One Love. And actually, we're in the process of reaching out to work. We've worked with them in the past, but we want to work with them even more and kind of maybe tie it into coaching somehow.
Yeah, that'd be great.
As a way to give back. So it's a great organization. They do a really good job. They focus a lot on pity type breeds because in Arizona, probably as you know, there's a lot of these breeds that are abandoned. And they get a bad rap. Pities get a bad rap. Yeah. They're the most. Yeah, I've owned a lot of dogs in my life. They're the most loving breed I've been with.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And thank you, Teddy.
You bet.